A very good afternoon to all of you guys. Welcome to yet another virtual learning session. Hope all of you guys are doing well. So today we are starting a bit early than our usual or the scheduled time for the virtual class for the 2024 advanced level batch. For obvious reasons, I think all of you have figured out why that is, because of the power cut schedules that I'm trying to manage with to make sure that we can do a session without any interruptions. Even last session, that is Unit 1, Part 23, we had a sort of a unexpected, unexpectedly the class ended because, the power went off at the last part of the class. So hopefully today that will not happen, and we can do the class until about 5 o'clock or a few minutes after 5. We should be able to get this done. Right. So with that, let's start off. Now, overall, we are starting a discussion, right? Overall, we are in the third chapter, Economic Systems. We have done a few sessions in terms of economic systems. We now have learned how to define an economic system. We have identified the main institutions and the institutional structure behind an economic system. We have also looked at how do we classify economic systems. Then we went on to talk about things like traditional economic systems, new traditional economic system. Then we also have looked at the concept of incentives, right? When we also looked at what kind of mixed economic systems we have in the world, and those kinds of areas we have discussed. Okay, so we are clear on those things. Today, we'll start where we stopped abruptly or at once. All of a sudden, we had to stop last week. That is when you guys were writing the characteristics of a market economic system, right? So let's start there and go through the different characteristics of a market economic system, talk about some key points, and then we will move on to talking about a command economic system a bit. And then we can identify what are the advantages and disadvantages by comparing a market economic system with that of a command economic system. Okay, right. I think you guys are clear. So with that, without taking any more of your time, let's start off. First, let me just check with you. Are we in the right area in terms of the study material that you can see on the screen now? Right. Hopefully all of you were able to collect the hard copy, right, of the study material, especially the students who have joined us newly, right? As I explained last week, last session, anyone who has joined these classes recently, you need to make sure, Putta, you watch some of the recorded sessions and make sure you are part of the class, Putta, or you are able to, without a problem, continue the class from the third chapter. Chapter 1 and Chapter 2, you have missed. The recordings are there, but anyway, in January, a special program will be done for students who joined after results. A special program will be done to ensure that you guys are able to catch up with Chapter 1 and Chapter 2. Now we are in Chapter 3. So please make sure overall, Chapter 3, you learn from the beginning. So if you are joining today, if you joined last week or week before, make sure that you watch the recorded versions that are available on the website. What are the recorded versions you need to watch, right? So our target is all of you should be okay with Chapter 3, which we are doing now. So in terms of Chapter 3 of Unit 1, what you need to do is, right, make sure you watch the recordings. I explained this last week also. So this is even for the students who are already in the class. You also can do this, right? Recordings. Please watch from 1.21 1, right? So 1.21, 1.22, 1.23, and today we are doing 1.24. So make sure you have watched from 1.21 to 1.23. These videos, these sessions, recorded versions, you should make sure you watch. Then you can, from the very beginning, learn everything about what is an economic system. And today we'll continue the learning. Got it? Right. So make sure you do that, Putta. Chapters, just to be very clear, and I'll quickly do this. Chapters 1 and chapter 2, right? Chapters 1 and 2, Putta, we will cover for the new students, students, right? We will cover, right? For the new students, we will cover chapter 1 and 2, which we will be doing in January of 2023, special set of classes, a special program, right? A special program will be done. So don't worry about that. For now, focus on chapter 3 and make sure you watch everything from 1.21. Today it's 1.24. So up to 1.23, make sure everything is done. Okay, right. On the website, the recorded versions are available. Right. So with that, we'll start in. I explained incentives also last week, I'm sure. You guys remember. Right. So shall we start here? 7.4. Right? 7.5, sorry. Page number 45. If you have the hard copy of the study material, page 45. If you haven't still collected the hard copy of the study material from the Mind-Hub admin office, right? You need to get in touch with the coordinator and collect the material, right? Always remember, this is a number that you need to be very familiar with. You need to join the WhatsApp group also. Everything you guys need to do so that we can communicate with you guys. And for all that, the number is not 777 277 729. Make sure you contact this number. Talk to the coordinator. WhatsApp is also on this number. So make sure you are communicating properly with the coordinator. Collect the hard copy of the study materials, book 1, book 2. And also make sure that if you don't have the hard copy of the study material, book 2 at the moment, Putta, then use a notebook, exercise book, or whatever it is, write the headings, and whatever we have to write, make sure you write them. Okay, right. So that when you get the hard copy, you can fill everything in. Okay, so let's start here. Right, we have identified certain characteristics of a market economic system. So let's start with that. I'm going to go to the slides now, or the virtual whiteboard. Okay, right. I'm going to go through a few slides. I'm not going to explain anything, just a visual recap. Just a visual recap of what we did from 1.21 up to 1.23. Okay, so today it's basically 1.24. We are here, right? Okay. So this part we did. Then we identified the basic economic problems and decisions. Then we looked at the institutional features and filled a table, okay, with some important information. Right. Now we have come to classification of economic systems. Right. So under classification of economic systems, we did the 3 main methods of classifying economic systems based on ownership of resources, mechanism of resource allocation, right? And also based on the incentive system or structure. Right. Now, this is where we are starting off today. Okay. Right. In case I might not have the time, or I might forget to ask this at the end, let me check with you guys, the students who are live in the session now, and anyone who will be watching the recorded version, they will also need to think about this, right? Last week, I explained to you guys some additional work that we need to do to make sure we remember what we study. Correct? I explained to you the process that you guys have to go through. Yes or no? Where I asked you guys to prepare some short notes. Remember? But I need you guys to respond. No, I didn't ask you to do that. I didn't talk about the memory exercise we have to do. Did I? No. Okay, right. Can we do that quickly? Is it okay? Yeah. Shall we quickly do that? I think this is something useful for you guys because we are doing this in the physical classes. So I want you to be the same level as the physical students also. Right. Okay. Now, the basic idea is, Putha, how do we remember things? Let me do it this way. Here. Right. Now, some space, if I can find, it will be good. Right. Okay, let me do it here. Now, you guys know, right, in economics, we have, right, in the advanced level economics syllabus, we have 12 units, 1 to 12. So economics is partly a theory subject. Also, there is a bit of a mathematical involvement. Okay, right. Then there's a lot of theory that we will have to remember when we study these 12 units. Concepts, definitions, characteristics, features, components, right? Pros and cons, advantages, disadvantages, right? Factors or determinants, factors that affect things, all of these. So there's a lot of theory stuff that we will have to remember from unit 1 to unit 12. How do you remember all this? How do you ensure that you capture, absorb, keep all this in your God-given multifunctional brain? As you guys know, I'm not trying to teach biology or neurology or anything like that. But end of the day, how our brain remembers things is by by creating something called neural pathways, right? Basically, in our head, there are certain ways this memory works, right? So in our brain cells, in our brain, whenever we get something new, there's a certain neural pathway that is created. The way the brain remembers it is the more we go down that pathway, more we go down that road that the brain has created, right? The more we keep going down that, more electrons travel down that. That means each time we think about something we learn, each time we read about something we learn, each time we hear about something we learn, that neural pathway for that memory, that pathway, that road is activated. So the more times you go down a certain specific neural pathway in the brain, right? You understand? The more that you go down a certain neural pathway in the brain, right? There are these kinds of things that are created, right? Brain waves. So when you learn something new, right? When you learn something new, right? Your brain creates a certain pathway. We'll say this pathway is created, right? But if you only go down this road once, after some time, because you're not going down it more and more, what will happen? Your brain will think, okay, this guy, this information is not required. So it will be forgotten. That's how you forget things. So what we need to do, the smart thing to do is, we need to find a way, multiple times, we need to go down this pathway. The more we keep going down this pathway, then that pathway will become very strong and your brain will remember that. Okay? That's why, Putha, when you want to remember something, there is this simple thing we do called repetition. We repeat, then we remember. Right. So how does our memory practically work? Our memory practically works where when we learn something, right? We'll say when we learn something today, within the, after we learn something new, right? You learn something new here, right? Okay. So this is the memory. This is the memory. Okay. So here we have time. So we learn something here. So here we basically, when we learn something for the first time, we remember about 100% of what we learn. It goes into our head. At least 95% it goes into our head. Then Buddha, the curve goes like this. It keeps on going down. And then it, stays here with time. So you go from 100% to about 20% at best. So memory reduces to 20%. How does this happen over a period of time? Right about here, okay, right about here, that is about the 50% mark, right? 50% of our memory. Just the average, we'll say 40 to 50%. 40, sorry, I'll write it here. About 40 to 50% is what we remember. Now, this is the shocking part. After 2 to 3 hours of learning something, after 2 or 3 hours of learning something new, some new information, around 40 to 50% of that is lost by us, forgotten by us, after 2 to 3 hours of learning that. Then this happens slowly after that. And by the end of this is about 6 days. After about 6 days, we remember 20% of what we have learned. For you guys, this is important because we have classes once a week. So what you learn today in today's session, by next Thursday, next Friday, you only remember about 20% unless you do something about it. Unless you do something about it. If you don't do anything, this is how it happens. And the critical part is here. The very important part is here. What do you think? I think you guys will agree with me. This is something that I really think the biggest memory depreciation, diminishing happens, right? Diminishing of memory happens 2 or 3 hours after we learn. After that, it slows down a bit, but still reduces. So what do we do? What can we do? What is our strategy? We have to do something about it. We can't just ignore this. Knowing this, we can't just ignore this because if we ignore this, right? If we ignore this, the end result is by the end of 2 years, you will remember very little of all the theory you have learned. Your neural pathways would not be that, solid, strong. Get it? Okay. Up to now, are you okay, Buddha, with what I said? Are you guys clear? First, I'm quickly explaining the problem now. The nature of how our memory works. Right. We have to first understand the problem. Now, let's look for what should we do now? Now, let's look for a solution. That's what we have to do. That's a smart thing to do. Right? When you see a problem, we look for a solution. How do you make sure you take this typical traditional memory curve and push it up a bit? Attack this. How wonderful would it be if our memory curve is something like this, where you remember about after 6 days and you only forget, about 30% after 2 to 3 hours. How do you push it here? Right? So that you at least remember, we'll say 70% of what you learn after 2 to 3 hours. How do you do that? And here you at least remember 30% of what you have learned. How do if we really want to, we can push it even further. We can make this curve very flat. And here, then Buddha, we will remember about 80% of what we learn. And here we will remember about 40% or more of what we have learned. So our challenge is to keep pushing this curve out, increase our memory, amount of things we remember. How do we achieve it? Here we go, shall we? Right. we have to strengthen our neural pathway. Then we remember. The more we strengthen, more we remember. This becomes very thick. When the neural pathway becomes very thick, that means the memory is very solid. The memory is very solid. Don't worry, your brain is not going to get swollen up and everything, but the memory is very solid. Okay, right, here we go. I'm going to propose something. We are going to have a small memory clinic. You're not sick or anything, but right, we are going to treat this. Okay, first step is, right, we need to address this. This is key. So your classes are on Fridays. Yes. Normally we finish the class around 5 or 6 o'clock, right? From 5 or 6, we'll say 6 o'clock, we'll finish the class. From 6, the 3-hour mark, until about 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock, you have to be very careful then. By 8 or 9 p.m., by 9 p.m. latest, right? Or I'll say before 9 p.m. or before you go to sleep, you need to grab hold of your memory. Otherwise, it will go down. So what do? You do something at this time. What do? You prepare, I will call them, very simple thing, short notes. Hyphen is not required. You prepare what notes? Are you guys with me? You prepare short notes. How do you prepare short notes, Buddha? I'll suggest or recommend 3 things. 1, you can prepare your short notes in the form of a list. So lists. Get it? You understand? List. Right. So list the key terms in a definition. Take the key terms, the words we highlight, quickly put them in a list. Put the heading, right? Put the heading and then write the keywords. Or you can prepare short notes in the form of a table. In the form of a table, like what we saw earlier, classification of economic systems, right? In the form of a table. Prepare short notes, right? You can do that. Or another way to prepare short notes is chart things, charts, right? Ideally, a good method of charting is prepare, if it's a suitable concept, some what we call, are you guys with me? Flow charts. Prepare some flow charts. So use these techniques. Then there are other things like, mind mapping and memory palancing and all that. But let's keep it simple, because I want you to do this very quickly with a very short period of time. So you need to prepare short notes. This shouldn't take you more than 20 to 30 minutes. After the first 2 or 3 hours of the learning, prepare some what notes? Short notes. Is that clear, Buddha? First step is that. When do you do it? Friday before 9 p.m. How do you do it? Simple. Take a small exercise book, right? Take a small exercise book, right? I can't find an exercise book where I can reach it. So take a small exercise book, take 1 page, and maybe for one class, maximum 2 pages. Short notes, not long notes, right? So divide it like this, right? And, have your short notes. Write the heading, list the points, have a small table going, right? Something like that. Always you will not do everything, no? So flowchart you might do, you might not do. Or just write the heading again, write the list. So this kind of method, 1 page, 2 pages, take everything, key points, short notes, tuck, write everything. The keywords, the key points. Do it very quickly. Look at the notes, do it very quickly. And within 20-30 minutes, that's your investment of time. Finish the short note. Then before you sleep today, go through the short note once. Only the short note, the key points, tuck, go through. That's it. And then go to sleep. No problem. Tomorrow, second step. First step is this. Second step, tomorrow for you guys, that would be Saturday. Okay, you might have classes, all that is fine. Saturday at about 9 p.m. Okay, or if possible, 6 p.m. is also okay. That's the 24 mark now of getting the knowledge. 6 p.m. So basic idea is within the 24-hour mark. Is that clear, Buddha? within the 24-hour mark. Are you with me? Are you guys with me? Right? At the 24-hour mark of learning something, take the short note and simply read. Very good. There we go. Respond. Brilliant. Read. Okay. Read the short note. And if you can read it while you are walking, not sitting down, it's better. Right? And while reading, you need to visualize. You need to visualize the note that you have a short note. For example, definition of an economic system. You go through the keywords: social, institutional, mechanism, allocating scarce resources. Those are the words you have in the list, right? Basic economic problems. Then in your mind, Putta, while walking and looking at the short note, in your mind, you are visualizing the actual definition. You put the words in your mind, right? Don't close your eyes and walk about the house. You will get injured. But don't go to the road also. Stay inside the house or the garden, right? Right? And keep recalling, visualizing. Get it? Right. Just the short note. Just tuck, 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 go through the points. Now, okay, then you say, okay, 6 institutions are there: households, enterprises, government, markets, labor organizations, non-government organizations. Tuck, 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 you look at the short note. Right? There's a unique framework to every economic system. That framework has 3 components: legal structure, incentive structure, structure of traditions, customs, and cultural elements. Recall. Look at the short note. Go through. Recall. What are you doing? We go back to our story. You're strengthening your what pathway? Neural pathway. It gets stimulated. Light goes through it. It gets strengthened, eliminated. Electric signals travel now. Right? Get what I'm saying? Right. Do that. Okay. Go through the short note. Third step. 4 steps. That's it. Third step, we say we'll call it midweek review. Right? The midweek review, revisit. What is the midweek review? For you, what is midweek, Putta? From Friday, can you guys help me here? Midweek, when? Tuesday? Wednesday? Tuesday? When? Come on, just suggest. Let me know. What is your suggestion? What is the midweek for you? From Friday before next Friday? Only if you know exactly we can do this. You will do this. Tuesday? Yeah, I think I'll also agree. Tuesday, yeah. I think Tuesday is a good day. Tuesday, Wednesday, right? So you decide whichever the day convenient for you. Tuesday or Wednesday. Yeah. Wednesday, yeah. Okay, fine. Maybe Wednesday is a day where you don't have much classes or much, that's okay. Wednesday. Tuesday or Wednesday, what you do is, so basically midweek, right? Again, go through the short note. Read the short note. Don't think this is a waste of time. We are strengthening our neural pathway so that we remember it. Go through the short note, right? Now, of course, you have some backlog work now because we have started economic systems. So you might have now today, try your best to prepare some of the short notes for where we started by defining economic systems, then the institutional features. Right? Today, maybe not the 20-30 minutes. If you can, today work for about 1 hour, prepare the backlog of short notes also. Right? But after that, Putta, every week when you keep that week's short note, on Friday itself, prepare. That's really important because we lose the biggest amount of memory within the first 2 to 3 hours. So once you have prepared the short notes, then you will realize, right? When your short notes start collecting, you might realize that you will need a bit more time to go through. You might feel like, okay, not only this week's thing, last week's thing also, I just need to look at it. After about 3-4 weeks, you might want to go back to the first week and say, okay, I need to strengthen that neural pathway a bit also. So that you can do. That's up to you to adjust those things. Get it? Right. Read the short notes. Again, do it this way. Right. Follow these 2 things. Okay. Right. Now, here, if there are any TYKs, what are TYKs? Test your knowledge questions. Right? Test your knowledge questions, TYK questions I have in the TUT Putta. Any of those, if you have, try to answer them also. It's a good place to do this. Then your memory, even the neural pathway even gets stronger. Try to answer some TYKs if relevant TYKs are there. Okay, in the future, I'll give you more questions also. Then the fourth and the final step is the day before, right? Next class, next learning session. The day before the next class, right? That's for you guys on Thursday. On Thursday. This time, you need to have the main note, that is the study material, and you need to read the short note. Both. Go through both. And come for the next class. Week by week by week. Now you have a bit of work this week. I understand there's a backlog, right? To summarize or have the short notes. Do that, put that effort. It's worth. And after that, every week do this. And report back to me. Give me some feedback. Tell me, sir, it's helpful. I can remember. Or, sir, it's doing nothing for me. It's not working. That's okay. That's why I call it a memory clinic. Right? You need to come to the clinic every week. And I also need to review. Okay? Shall we do this? Shall we try this? Shall we be smart about it? And strengthen our neural pathways so that we remember things? What do you guys think? I want most of you, if not all of you, to respond. I think you can do this with us. I think this is us being very proactive rather than reactive. Reactive is after forgetting, on A, I forgot. Proactive is, I'm going to forget, I'm going to do something about it. Right? This is my kind of advanced level economics student. We are a class with a, what does this say? Can someone type it or unmute the microphone and tell me what does this say? Can someone unmute the microphone and read this out loud for me? Come on. What does it say?
A different class.
Ah, there we go, Putta. Thank you. We are a different class. We are not the typical class. So we do things. We are proactive. We are never reactive. We are not like our country. Right? We don't wait for the problem to happen and then panic. Let's do this. All of you can do this. All of you are going to make sure A-levels is the exam. You show your potential. Get it? Get this done. You can do it, Putta. It's all in your head. The more you commit, you will do this. And any of your friends who invite to join our virtual classes, invite to join this wonderful journey we are going through in Econ-Hub, motivate them also. Do this together. Share your notes, short notes, right? Maybe one of your friends will have a creative way of preparing the short notes. You will have something to add to that person's short notes. Share them. Talk about them. These are the things you guys do. This is how you be active and get this done. Yes, let's strengthen the neural pathway and remember things. The end. Are we okay? Right? Good. Excellent. So now, let me come back. Okay? I hope you guys made some notes and remember these things. Or you can watch the recorded version also. Anyone who is watching the recorded version, right? You guys also need to do this. Soon as you see this, soon as you get to know this, you need to start working on your short notes as well. Okay? Right. And any of your friends who are planning to join the virtual classes, encourage them to do so and tell them that we are doing something new. Sir is having a memory clinic, right? And every week we are working on things. Right. A different class. Ladies and gentlemen, features of a market economic system. Let me get this cleared. Features of a market economic system. Shall we quickly write, Buddha? Then I can explain the features or the characteristics is better. Right. So get this done and let me know once this is done. Some of you might have written this last week. Only the ones in blue color you have to write. The other two are printed. Okay. Quickly do it and let me know, please. Right. I think you guys are done. Shall we talk about the points? Yeah, the characteristics. Okay. First is private property ownership. Basically, Buddha, this is what we identify as the what we identify as the we can say fundamental, right? One of the most fundamental or this particular since last week or week before there is this problem. I can't see the cursor in the white background, right? Fundamental or foundational, right? It's a foundational, one word, foundational feature, characteristic of a market economic system. You cannot have a market economic system where the private sector makes decisions about what to produce, how to produce, whom to produce, where private enterprise, freedom of choice, all these things are there. You can't have a market economic system unless and otherwise, number one, first and foremost, we have private property ownership. Private property ownership. This first characteristic itself will have a small conflict, or you have to think about it when we learn the last characteristic. Okay, I'll come to it at that point. Okay, but very important characteristic, private property ownership. Private sector will mainly own property resources. In other words, land and capital. Land and capital will be mainly owned by the private sector, controlled by the private sector. Okay, right. Secondly, so that's the first characteristic. Second characteristic is, I already ticked it, right? The existence of private enterprise. Now, this is logical, Nabata, because the private sector owns the property, land and capital. Private sector will provide entrepreneurship. They will hire labor and they will produce goods and services. So, private property ownership, private basically entrepreneurship. Private entrepreneurship. Is that clear? Right. Then the decision making, right? The decision making process is decentralized. What does decentralized mean? Decentralized meaning each and every person gets the ability, gets the freedom to make their own decisions. Make their own decisions. Decentralized decision making. Decentralized decision making. So once we have decentralized decision making, we automatically get another thing called, so we have freedom of enterprise or private enterprise is there, and we get something else which is known as the freedom of choice. What else do we get? Freedom of choice. Get it? Because we have private property ownership and we have decentralized decision making. Decentralized. What is the opposite of decentralization? Centralization. Centralized decision making. Now, for example, if you take your school, it is a structure of centralized decision making. One person or one group of people make decisions that will affect everyone, that all of us have to follow. Get it? Your principal in school, your administration in school, right? The sectional heads, the deputy principals, the vice principals, they're the management team. They make the decision, mainly the principal. The decision making is centralized. Principal makes the decisions and the decisions are communicated to all of you guys through the teachers and you follow. The time the school starts, the time the school finishes, the time you have the interval, these are centrally decided. Each and every one of you, if you get to decide what time to go to school, what time to have the interval, what time to leave the school, what to wear to school, if you have that free, if you get to make your decision on your own, then you're not in a centralized system, you are in a decentralized system. Are we clear the difference between centralized decision making and decentralized decision making? Yes or no? Got it? Decentralized decision making. And because we have decentralized decision making, we will always, we will always make our decisions. We will always make our decisions, right? We will always make our decisions. Why is this? We will always make our decisions based on what interest? Self-interest. Because we have a decentralized system, we will always make our decision based on self-interest. What is going to create a benefit for us? What is going to create a benefit for us? Right? So we call this decisions are made based on the incentive, or what motivates our decisions based on the incentive of what? Self-interest. And we can do it, decentralized decision making. So that part also we have explained. I'm sorry, I'm writing all over the place because I can't see where the cursor is, right? I'll need to work on that, or change the background. Right, okay. Then, right? Then resource allocation is based on a really interesting kind of amazing process called price mechanism. We can have, so Puta, whenever you hear the word price mechanism, always remember price mechanism is a decentralized system. Price mechanism is a what system? Decentralized system. Okay, we can have decentralization because the mechanism of resource allocation we are using is price mechanism. This is where we make decisions based on demand and supply. We make decisions based on demand and supply. Got it? Right. Then we have high degree of these next two features are actually, I'll explain price mechanism. We will learn, we have to learn price mechanism separately, right? We have to learn price mechanism separately, right? So then high degree of, this is printed and given, high degree of competition among producers to maximize profits. High degree of competition among producers to maximize profits. Maximize profits. So the key thing is, in a market economy, we believe, we see that there will be high level of competition. Get it? There are many private sector producers who are competing with each other. Each person is trying to maximize their profits, and that is good for the consumer. Because of competition, we will learn there's something called consumer sovereignty. Consumer sovereignty. Consumer becomes very powerful. Consumers become very powerful in a market economic system. We'll learn that concept in a bit. Then we come to the last point, which I touched on earlier a bit. It is connected with private property ownership. I'll explain that part also. Limited or laissez-faire government. How do we say it with the French phrase? Laissez-faire. How do we say it? Laissez-faire. What does laissez-faire mean? Laissez-faire means, right? Laissez-faire means hands off. So we are telling the government, keep your hands off. Hands off what? Hands off the market. In a market economic system, that's where the word liberal comes in. Liberal meaning free. Market has the freedom. Private sector has the freedom. No government influence, no government intervention. And the government tries to put their hand into the market, private sector goes, naughty government. Why? Laissez-faire. Government, hands off. Government gets, hurt. Government, slowly does that sad walk and moves to the corner and say, okay, private sector, we are not going to get involved. Market, okay, you play, you do whatever you want. And the government goes back. Laissez-faire. Okay? Limited government. The thing is this, it's good. Market system is all about liberty, liberal, freedom, no government intervention, laissez-faire government. Fine. But the problem is this. What is the number one requirement to have a market economic system, a properly working, functioning market economic system? If you want, what is the foundation of a market economic system? What is the foundational characteristic or pillar of a market economy? Central pillar is what? This is the central pillar, the pillar that keeps market economy stable. What is the pillar? Come on, you know this. We have talked about it. Market economy is all about the private sector. If that is to happen, you need to have what? You need to ensure what? There we go. Very good, Akila. Anyone else? What is the most important fundamental requirement to create a market economic system? For a market economic system to work, what is the most basic requirement? There we go. Now I am getting answers. Brilliant. Ayesha, Deepti, that's correct. Yes. Amani, yes. Good. That's the requirement. A market economic system cannot exist unless and otherwise we have private property rights. So, without private property rights, no market economy. But to have private property rights, who cannot do it? Private sector cannot do it, because to have property rights, you need to have laws. Private sector, can they make laws, Puta? that all of us will have to follow? Can private sector make the law? No. No. Private sector cannot make laws. So if you can't make laws, if you can't have the property laws, you can't have the property rights. No private property rights, no market economy. So remember a party where when they try to put their hand in, we went and said, go, hands off. That party? Yes, the government. Now the government is, teary-eyed, all sad in the corner. Then you go and you look at the government and say, private sector looks at the government and say, market looks at the government and say, government. Government goes, me? Yes, government. Ani, can you come, government? No, the hand you went like this, now you go like this. Ani, good government, come. And you take the government, bring the government and say, government, like a good government, can you please make sure you do? Ready? Define government. Can you define, establish? For your short notes, you will need the keywords. Government. Can you define, establish, and protect private property rights? And a good government do it. Then the government goes, you want me now? Okay, fine. So the government has to define, establish, protect private property rights. Only if the government does so, we can have a what economic system? A market economic system. Ironic, isn't it? We don't want the government. We look at the government and say, government, laissez-faire. But then we look at the government and say, government, private property rights. That's why even in the most market economy in the world, we need a government to at least for the purpose of, minimum for the purpose of, what are the three words? Define. What are the three words? Define, establish, protect private. There we go. Very good. Define, establish, and protect private property rights. That is the fundamental job of the government in a market economic system. Other things government has to do. Yes, there are other things government will have to do. I'll explain those. But mainly private property rights. Are we clear with that? Other than that, we want the government to be what? Off? Hands off. I have written hand off. Actually, it's hands off. Right? Laissez-faire. The fancy way to say it is what? Laissez-faire. Right. Good. Are we okay with the characteristics? Basic idea? Yes. Now we have a basic idea of a market economic system. Now let's quickly read this whole story about private property rights a bit. Okay, this note is given, Putta, in page 45, so don't worry too much here, but just read it with me quickly. That's all. A market economic system is an alternative term, or alternatively, right? In other words, termed as capitalist or free enterprise economic system. Private property ownership and rights, private property ownership, property rights are considered as the foundation of a market economic system. Considered as the what? Foundation of a market economic system. Then this part is important. So I'm here in the second point, but I'm actually providing a definition. Right? A definition for private property rights. Private property rights refers to the special right or a privilege held by a person or institution. Could be a person, could be a business, whatever. Institution to use the property resource owned by them as per their own free will. Whatever you want to do, you can do. then you have private property rights. As per their own free will. Own free will. A market economy cannot operate unless private property ownership and rights are well established and protected. That part has to be done by whom? That part has to be done by the government. The government has to do this. Actually, what should the government do? 3 things. Shall we? Defining. So here is the first one, defining. Number 2, establishing. Number 3, protecting. Defining, establishing, protecting should go into your short notes, right? Defining, establishing, protecting such private property right, property ownership and rights is inevitable. Inevitable meaning unavoidable. Government can't say no. They have to do it. Well, only they can do it. Inevitable responsibility of the government, even within a pure 100% market economy. Even within 100% market economy, this has to be done by the government. Define, establish, and protect private property rights. Private property rights can be defined as where the right or the privilege of a person to use whatever the property they have, they own, as per their own free will. As per their own free will. Done? Are we okay? Done? Private property rights. Got it? No? Confused? You guys have any questions you need to ask? Okay. Right. Price mechanism. Price mechanism. Right. Read this once, then I'll explain with a simple example. Then we are okay. I've given detailed notes. This is a summary. Don't summarize the summary. Okay. Read this once. Right. And let me know once you're done. Don't highlight, underline anything. Just read it once. How are we doing? Can I read it once for you guys? Okay. Right. Price mechanism is a decentralized system by which limited resources are allocated within a market economic system to provide solutions to the basic economic problems. Decentralized decisions within the price mechanism are made by factor owners, consumers, and producers, fundamentally based on the functions of relative price, performed within product and factor markets, motivated by self-interest based incentives. Right. So if you are to identify the key terms here, first and foremost, we are saying very clearly the price mechanism, right? We are saying the price mechanism is a decentralized system. It's decentralized. We talked about decentralization. What does it do? What is the purpose of the price mechanism? It is to allocate, right? You can change the words accordingly, right? With the allocate scarce resources, limited resources. Why? So that we can solve the economy's basic economic problems. So the price mechanism is one method of resource allocation. Price mechanism is one method of resource allocation. Why do I say one method? Because we also have something called the planning mechanism or a mixed mechanism. So price mechanism is a decentralized method or mechanism to allocate resources and solve our basic economic problems. Okay, right. Then, how does this work? In the price mechanism, we make decentralized decisions. So we know that now it's a decentralized system. Who makes these decisions? Who are the parties? So when you prepare the short notes, when you break this down to understand, that's how you do it, Pudha, right? So first sentence is to talk about what is the price mechanism. What is the price mechanism? Then who are the parties? Who are the, we can say, decision extremely sorry, right? Who are the where were we? Decision okay, who are the decision makers, right? Who are the decision makers? Okay, I'll get that sorted with the styler, the pen. Okay, who are the decision makers? So how many decision makers do we mainly talk about? 3 of them. 1, factor owners, mainly the households are the factor owners. 2, consumers. 3, producers. So there are 3 main types of decision makers you see within a market economic system, within the price mechanism. These parties make decisions based on what? Based on, now, Putta, if you want to make any decision, you need what we call information. Without information, are you guys okay? No, I mean, I've stopped the video stream for a bit so that the bandwidth is a bit better, right? I can see some of you guys are going back and forth the session, right? Okay, so I thought if I stop the video, the bandwidth will be a bit better. Okay, after a while, I'll switch it on. Okay, right. Concentrate on what I'm saying, Buddha. So there are 3 decision makers. Now, as I was saying, if you want to make any decision, you cannot make decisions. You remember this, right? We talked about this in the beginning. We have, now if you have a problem, right? The solution for the problem comes in the form of making decisions. If you want to make decisions, you need to have what we call information. And not only information, you'll only make a decision once you have the information and once you have a certain incentive. Some kind of a motivation has to be, something has to push you to make decisions. So you need some information, you need some incentive, then you actually make decisions, right? Okay, you actually understand how to make the decision. Once you make the decision, you solve the problem, right? So this arrow ideally should go the other way. You solve problems by making decisions. Okay, now these parties, factor owners, consumers, producers, they need to make decisions. Only then they can allocate their resources and solve basic economic problems. To do that, they need some information, incentive. There needs to be some kind of a way for them to get this information. That is where we talk about a very important job role played by relative price, right? Relative price. Here we go. Relative price. So what relative price does is it performs certain functions. Price does certain jobs with them. We'll learn about them. 3 jobs price will do. Only when price performs these 3 jobs, we will get that information, incentive, and that rationing ability, and we will make decisions. Once we make decisions, who is we? Factor owners, consumers, producers, we solve our basic economic problems. Every decision we make, earlier also I said it's based on a self-interest, based on incentive. The main incentive, the main motivation will be self-interest. So if someone wants to talk about the price mechanism, it will be very difficult to give a proper description or definition for price mechanism unless you understand these key terms. It's a decentralized system. The purpose of it is to allocate scarce resources, solve basic economic problems, right? Solve basic economic problems. And there are 3 decision makers in a price, in the price mechanism. And those 3 decision makers are factor owners, consumers, and producers. We call this the price mechanism because price is what helps these decision makers with the information, incentive, and the rationing ability they need to actually make decisions. Don't go that far. Just remember, functions of price is what will help that factor owners, consumers, and producers make their decisions. And whenever they make the decisions, they will be motivated by self-interest. The incentive is self-interest. The incentive is self-interest. Are we okay? Right. Now, what are these 3 functions of price? Can you guys quickly write this? Then I can explain the functions of price with a basic example. Okay, done. Right now, first of all, in your study material, Puta, your study material. Okay, let me quickly share this. Right. Can you, hope you guys don't feel a bit dizzy. I have to go towards the end. Yeah, this is a better approach, right? So I have given a good detailed note. I think I showed this to you guys last week on incentives, right? For you to read page 61. Then the detailed note on price mechanism I have given in page 62. What I have in the main part of the study material is a summary. So that's why I said don't summarize the summary, right? And then Puta, we go into, let's see, functions of price. Yeah, okay. Now I have explained the functions of price in a more technical, theoretical way here. You need to read this. You need to be good with the theoretical idea also, but you will only understand functions of price if I give you a practical example. Okay, so go through these notes definitely, right? In a more resource allocation point, I have explained things here. All three functions we are going to talk about. Okay, but let me now take a practical example and explain. Is that clear? Right. Okay. Can you guys just make sure that you make a note in your study material, right? Page 61, 62, 63, right? Okay. Come to, yeah, in page 45, okay, in page 40, no, sorry, before that, page 44. Come to page 44. Did you write this last week? I can't remember, right? Just say, read page 61. Yes, make that note. Then similarly here, so you wrote read page 61. Okay. Similarly here, price mechanism. Please write read pages 62, 63. Am I correct? Are the page numbers correct? Right. Okay. Can you guys hear me? Yeah. There are more people joining in and out. I think there's a small issue with the bandwidth. But anyway, Pata, right. So let me try to use just give me a minute, Pata. Right. Sorry. Now, basically, the practical example to explain the information, incentive, and rationing functions of price. We'll assume you have gone to a supermarket with your parents. Your parents have gone marketing. That's normally what we call grocery shopping in Sri Lanka, right? So your parents have gone marketing, grocery shopping to a supermarket, and you have also tagged along with them, joined them. So what is your job when you go to a supermarket with your parents to buy the grocery stuff? Most of the time, I assume you guys don't volunteer, they drag you. But when you go there, what is your job normally? Are you guys there? Or taking a break? No? What is your job normally when you go to supermarket? What do you guys normally do when you go to supermarket? What is the job role given to you? No? You never go to supermarket, right? Okay. Basically, you most probably what you do is you are given the job of, you enter the supermarket, your parents point at something and you go and, you take a thing. What is this? You keep pushing the, most of the time, that's what I've seen. People of your age, they are given the job of pushing the cart. Yes, sometimes they push the cart with one hand and on the other hand, they have, and then go and knock it on someone else and problem, right? So now we'll say you have gone to a supermarket, your parents want you to push the cart and, all that. And then we'll say your parents want to buy some canned fish, tin malu, we call it canned fish, right? So your parents go to the aisle or the place where it is, right? You also observe these things. They go, they take, a can, right? They take a tin. And then have you noticed sometimes they do this kind of a thing? They take it, they look at it, then they go, they turn it around and upside down and all that. They're doing something. And sometimes they just point it at your face and say, and ask you something. What is that? What are they doing? What are they looking for? Okay, good. I'm getting responses. What are they looking for? Very good. Yes. Come on. What are they looking for? They're looking for the price. Sometimes on the shelf, on the thing, it's there. Yes, date, manufacture date, best before date, expiry date, all that is good. But they're looking mainly for what? For the price. They're looking for some information. They're looking for some information. Remember, information. That information is coming through price. The price is what they're looking for. That is the information. So they look at the price. Then if sometimes they say, I couldn't bring my glasses or whatever, they point it at your face. How much? You go and you say 400 rupees and you give it to them. They take 400. Oh, very. Right? Then they keep it. They take another can, another brand. Then they take that and again they do the same thing and ask you, how much is this? Then you say 395. When you say what? 395. Your parents go, 395. Let's see. Same grammage, same amount of fish has jumped into the tin, right? 400, 395. What is this? This is called relative price comparison or price comparison. What is it called? Price comparison. So first, information, get to learn the price. Secondly, when you compare the price, relative price, comparative price, second step. What is the second step? They get a motivation. They get a certain, incentive. When they compare prices, they get an incentive. What is the incentive? One brand is cheaper than the other. They get the incentive, that motivation to go for that product, that brand, because it's relatively cheaper. Is that clear, Buddha? So first, information. Secondly, what is it? Incentive. Secondly, what? Incentive. While all this is happening, your parents also know that when they walk, are you guys with me or not? Information and incentive. Is that clear? Price gives us information. Price gives us, when we compare prices, it gives us a what? Incentive. Relative price gives us an incentive, right? Then thirdly, your parents know they have walked into the supermarket with one of these, right? This is my old wallet, it looks old, right? They have walked into the supermarket with one of these, and in these, they know they have bought either cash or they have bought plastic magic cards. Either way, they know they have a certain amount of what power, Puta? Purchasing power. So they are then thinking based on the price, based on the incentive. They are then thirdly thinking, okay, how do I ration my limited what power? purchasing power. And that moment, they decide how many cans of tin fish are they going to buy at the price of $3.95. Are we clear? That is the third function of price. What is the third function of price? That's called the rationing function. That's called the what function? Rationing function. So information, incentive, rationing. Get it? Information, incentive, rationing. Only when these three functions are performed, we can expect price to do its job. We can expect the price mechanism to work. And your parents will decide what to buy, how much to buy, at what, where to buy, right? All those consumer decisions, producer decisions. And when your parents and all consumers buy more of a product, it gives a signal to that means we are demanding for that product. It gives a signal to the producers of that product. The price will start to increase when the demand increases. And the producers get a price signal that consumers want more of the product. We should allocate more resources and produce more of this particular good. And we should produce it in the most efficient manner so that we can produce it at a lower cost, sell at a good price, earn a profit. In the process, they are solving the problems of what to produce, how to produce, and whom to produce. So if price mechanism is to work, there are three simple functions price has to perform. And one more thing, Putta, your parents don't go through these three functions one after the other. Sometimes this happens at the same time. The moment they look at the price, moment they compare the price, they have decided how much to buy, which means within a matter of seconds, they have gone through the three functions of price: information, incentive, and rationing. From a producer's point of view, the more we demand for a product, that means we like the product, we prefer the product, so we increase our demand. Then the price, market price of the product increases. When the market price increases, that is the price signal for the producer that consumers want more of the product, and the price increasing is the incentive for the producer to produce more of the product. And the rationing part is the producers' limited resources, land, labor, capital, entrepreneurship. The producers will allocate and produce more of that good. So in a market economic system, within the price mechanism, consumers can simply do, consumers dominate or control the market by simply what? By simply increasing, decreasing their demand for goods and services. That's all we have to do. So that ability, that power we have to get producers to produce more of a product, get producers to produce less of a product by simply increasing and decreasing our demand for the product is called, there's a name for this, it's called consumer sovereignty. What is it called, Putta? Consumer sovereignty. Got it? So now we have talked about not only price mechanism and functions of price. We have also talked about what sovereignty? Consumer sovereignty. Any questions? So you guys should be good with the three functions of price. Okay? Information, incentive, and rationing. What is consumer sovereignty? Shall we go through that concept also quickly? Yeah? Right. We have to pass these things and go to the bottom of page 46, please. Consumer sovereignty. Okay? Consumer sovereignty. Consumer sovereignty refers to a situation where consumers function as the ultimate authority within a market economy. The consumer receives the complete power to make and control decisions such as what goods to produce, which firms should produce, in what quantity, quality such goods should be produced, simply by changing their what? Demand for different goods. Changing their demand. So consumer sovereignty is where consumers function. So consumers function as the ultimate authority. This is where consumers receive complete market power. How do you get the ultimate authority? Become the ultimate authority. They get the complete market complete power to make decisions in the market, or we can simply say complete market power. Complete market power. So how do they do all this with us? Simply by changing their demand, increasing their demand. If they want more of the good, that gives that price signal. When demand increases, market price increases, producers get the signal that consumers want more. They get the incentive because the price has increased, and they ration their resources and produce more of that good or service and less of another good or service. Where demand has gone down, price has decreased. This is price mechanism. The amazing thing here is, all of us make our decisions independently. Your parents decide what type of tin fish they want to buy and how many cans they want to buy. They are decided. No one comes and tells them what brand to buy and how much to buy. They decide based on their what interest, self-interest. And your neighbor decides differently. But the wonder is, Puta, even though all of us make our own decisions independently, all of these decisions are coordinated together, brought together. And what happens? We end up making resource allocation decisions. How does this work? It's kind of magical, kind of unique, kind of special. Because each and every one of us get to make our own decisions based on our self-interest. But somehow, I don't know how it happens, we know, but somehow the entire economy's resources are allocated and our entire countries or societies' basic economic problems are being beautifully solved, efficiently solved. How is it possible? Without one party bringing all the decisions together and controlling everything, how is this done? There is something that is coordinating all the decisions and bringing everything together. It's invisible. So that's why we call this the invisible hand. The what hand? Invisible hand. What is the invisible hand? In one word, the invisible hand that guides decisions, allocates resources, solves basic economic problems in a market economy. In one word, the invisible hand is what? Price or price mechanism. Get it? Yes, your parents decide differently. Your parents decide to buy 2 cans of tin fish. Someone else buys 1 can of tin fish. Doesn't matter. But the thing is this, no? Whether it's your parents or anyone else or other consumers, we all get the information, incentive and rationing done by looking at the same thing. Looking at what? The price of the good or the service. As long as all of us are getting our information, incentive and rationing our purchasing power and resources based on the same thing, that is price, price is able to coordinate all the decisions. Different people are making decisions. Different decisions are being made. But all of us are looking at the same price for that particular good or service. As long as that is there, we can have a very, very special thing called price mechanism. And all of us have the freedom to make our own decisions. Got it? Right. So then there are 3 conditions that have to be there if you are to have a properly functioning. You guys need to read the note on price mechanism, right? The detailed note, please do that. There are 3 conditions to have a properly functioning market economy. Sorry, properly. There are 3 conditions to ensure there is consumer sovereignty. Consumer sovereignty in a market economy. What are these conditions to ensure consumer sovereignty in a market economy? Right? First and foremost, the market has to be competitive. If you do not have a competitive market, you can't have a properly functioning what economy? Market economy. Next, perfect information. Perfect information. The correct information, accurate information needs to be there. Are we clear? Thirdly, we need to eliminate any kind of barriers, any rules, regulations that are stopping new firms from coming into the market, that is stopping competition from improving or increasing. We need to eliminate, remove them, the barriers. Okay. First and most important is competitive markets. If we don't have competitive markets, if we have the opposite of this is monopoly. Monopoly. If we have monopoly markets, we are not going to have a very competitive system. Where monopoly is one firm. Monopoly means no competition. Then it's not consumer sovereignty. In a monopoly, what we have is producer sovereignty. That is not what we want. Producer sovereignty will consumers will get exploited. Consumers will get exploited. Paribhogika surakama, exploited. He will be asked to buy goods at very high prices because we don't have an option, only one firm. But in a competitive market, when one firm charges an unreasonable price, we can ask them to fly a kite and we can go and buy from another firm. Get it? Competition. Consumer sovereignty. Perfect information. If you can, please. Right, hold on. I'll stop the video if the bandwidth is an issue. Right. If you can, within brackets with here, perfect information, near perfect information, please write these words, please. Okay, the words you guys have to write. I'm not getting any messages from my side. Okay, so maybe it might be a small issue with your bandwidth. Okay, to the best of what I can see, I'm not having any major issues from my side. So I've stopped the video also just to ensure that you guys have better bandwidth. So beyond that, Puta, you need to let me know, right? There's nothing much I can do beyond that. Okay. Hopefully you guys are clear on what I'm saying, right? Within brackets, right, where it says perfect information, first word is correct. If you can write the word accurate, if not the word correct is okay. Correct, comma, okay, few words, correct, comma, sorry. It has to be correct information. It has to be relevant information. Relevant information. It has to be timely information. Correct, relevant, timely. Okay. And ideally, the information should be free. Freely available. Free. 4 words. Okay. 4 words. Correct, relevant, timely, free information. Okay. Got it? Done. Okay. Are we done? Now, let me quickly explain the meaning of those 4 words. Correct. Now, if I tell you guys, right, when you're about to make a decision on your advanceable stream or something like that, if I tell you guys that economics has 10 units, economics has 10 units, okay? Economics has 10 units. What do you think? What is the problem with that information? If I say economics has 10 units, what is the problem with that information? The problem with the information is, anyone? Yes, it is incorrect, false, very good. So you can't make a good decision with incorrect information. Then the information is not perfect. Or I tell you, economics has 12 units, right? Economics has 12 units, right? Economics has 12 units, but I tell you this after about 1 year into A levels or closer to your exam, I come and tell you economics has 12 units, right? Then the problem is the information is not received in a timely manner. Information has to be correct and it has to be received at the right time, Putta. Then only you can make efficient decisions. Or I tell you, in the beginning, I tell you, right? In the beginning, I tell you that the information is, how do I put this? I tell you 12 units and I tell you in the beginning when you make the choice, all that is okay. But then I tell you not about, I tell you about the syllabus and whatever it is for we'll say biology or chemistry, a subject like that. When you're about to make a decision about your commerce subjects. Get it? If that is the case, what do you think? Right? If that is the case, what do you think? Then what you have to be clear on is, the information has to be relevant to the decision that you're making. Only if you get information, very good, yes, irrelevant. Only if you get information relevant to the decision you're about to make, that information is useful to you. Otherwise, your decision becomes inefficient. Finally, if you have to pay a very high price, right? Very high price for your information, right? The decisions you make after paying a very high price for the information would not be effective, because that the outcome or the benefit you get from the decision would not be worth for the price that you have paid. So if information is perfect, it has to be correct, relevant, timely, and free. Then, Putta, you can expect to have a market economic system with high levels of consumer sovereignty, provided the market is very competitive. And there are no barriers, any barriers for in terms of rules, regulations, anything stopping or discouraging a new firm from coming in and creating more competition is eliminated or removed. Then we can have right? Then we can have that particular outcome can be achieved. Is that clear? Meaning consumer sovereignty can be achieved. Right. Putta, we have only a few more minutes, so let's be okay with the bandwidth thing, right? Let's see, right? I think, yeah, okay, we can complete the work. Okay, next, what we need to discuss is what is the role of the government in a market economic system. The fundamental role of the government in a market economic system, we have already discussed, that is basically to protect private property rights. In addition to that, there are a few things we expect the government to do. Okay, right. So let's talk about them. I think we are doing okay with the timing. Just because some of your classmates are talking about this, give me 1 or 2 minutes. Let me see if 1 minute, if I can do something about the bandwidth. Okay, so that the last few minutes of the session also are effective. Okay, and if any of you guys have a problem with the audio, if it's getting lagged or whatever it is, you need to tell me now, so that I can see if there's anything at all I can do from my side. Right. Let's see. For the next few minutes, at least, I think we should be okay. Right. I have switched the internet thing a bit. Let's see. Okay. Now, I thought fiber was the most stable one. Let's see. Right. Functions of the government. Now, Putta, to understand the functions of the government in a market economic system, first and foremost, understand generally the government has a very limited role in a market economic system. How do we say that in with that French phrase? No, don't type it. If you can unmute the microphone and say it, say it. If not, it's okay. What is the phrase when we how we look at the government in a market economy? Anyone? No? We call it laissez-faire. We say what? Laissez-faire, hands off. But we learned earlier, there's one very fundamental thing, even in the pure market economy, most market of the market economies in the world, we expect the government to do. What is that? We expect the government to three words. Let's see your short-term memory. What are three words? What is it about? Yes,
Define, establish, and protect.
Ah, there we go. Very good. Very good. Yes, define, establish, and protect private property right. Defining, protecting, establish is not there, but you know this, private property rights. This is the first thing, right? In addition to this, there is a role for the government when market failure happens. When what happens with the market failure happens. When the market system fails, Superman has to come in and save the market, save the people. Price mechanism fails sometimes. Then Superman has to come. Who is Superman? Government. So there are four things we expect the government to do. In addition to defining, establishing, protecting private property rights in a market economic system. These four things, we will call them the core, C-O-R-E, core functions of the government. Four things. First one, just for your short note purposes, these are the words. Allocative function. What does allocative function mean? Sometimes there are certain goods and services, they are very important for our day-to-day. They are very important for our day-to-day life. Right? They are very important for our day-to-day life. But the private sector will never allocate resources to produce them because they are not profitable. You can't sell them at a price. That is public goods, such as protecting the environment, street lighting, national defense, maintaining law and order. These things can never be done by the private sector, but they are important for our day-to-day life. So there has to be Superman, i.e. the government, has to allocate resources and provide these kinds of goods, public goods, even in a market of the market economy in the world. So allocation function is there. Then sometimes when it comes to things like especially merit goods, education, healthcare, private sector will provide education and healthcare. But the education and healthcare provided by the private sector, number one, is not enough, insufficient. Everyone doesn't get enough of those services. Number two, very expensive. So the government, these are fundamental rights, basic rights. Government will have to allocate some resources and provide education, provide healthcare. That's why even in very market economies in the world, public health, public education is there. Get it? This is called the allocative function. Superman has to come when the market fails to allocate resources for certain important goods and services. Next, stabilization. What does this mean? Again, we need Superman. When we have problems with like we have in Sri Lanka today, when we have problems with very high rates of inflation, right? When we have problems with very high rates of inflation, okay, very high rates of inflation, we will have a situation where the people in the country, when our cost of living increases, when your parents really feel the pressure with the high prices, right? Or when unemployment rates are very high, people find it difficult to have a job and earn an income. We look at the government, we look at the sky and hope Superman will come. I mean, this Superman has a G on the chest, right? Capital G. Government, you can imagine the face, up to you, right? With the gray hair or whatever you decide, right? With or without a mustache, you decide, right? So Superman has to come. And the government's job is to stabilize the economy, control inflation a bit, right? Make sure there is a certain affordability and there's a certain reasonable cost of living we have. If unemployment, economic growth problems are there, right? Stabilize the economy. If the exchange rate is depreciating, right? Then stabilize the exchange rate. All this can be done by the government and only by the government. So we call this a stabilization function or role. In any market economy, government has to stabilize the macroeconomy. Stabilize the macroeconomy. Second function is that out of the core four, right? Core functions, there are four functions. The second one. Third one, redistribution. This is more than Superman, right? This is more than Superman. This is Robin Hood. Have you guys heard of Robin Hood? Yes, what did Robin do? You know Robin Hood? What did Robin do? Every country has a version of Robin Hood. In Sri Lanka, we have Uttuvan Kande Saradil. Every country has. The Spanish had Zorro. You know, some version is there, right? So what did Robin do? Anyone? No? You guys from a different generation, not connected to Robin Hood. What did Robin do? No? What did Robin do? Robin Hood basically stole from the rich and gave to the poor. What did Robin do? Stole from the rich and gave to the poor. I would like to propose a small amendment to that statement. I think Robin stole from the rich. Yes, Robin gave to the poor, but I'm sure Robin would have also kept something with her. Robin also has to live, no? Robin also has needs, you know. Robin has Mariam to take care of, you know, and Robin has his whole gang to take care of. So Robin would have kept a certain amount for Robin's own expenditure, but majority Robin gave to the poor, right? This is what Robin Hood did, right? Yes, made a just society. That is what Robin Hood did. Got it? Now the government in a market economy has to do the same thing. Robin stole from the rich and gave to the poor. Government doesn't steal from the rich. Robin used a bow and an arrow and stole from the rich. Government also has a bow. Robin used the bow, dunna, bow. Robin shot arrows. Government shoots what? With their bow. Their bow is the legislation, the ability to make law. What does the government shoot with their bow? To the rich, towards the rich. These days, rich are being bombarded with these kinds of arrows. What are these? Very good. Yes. There we go. Now you guys are getting it. Brilliant. Right? Aisha, Hasni, good. Government shoots taxes. Right? Government goes and shoots taxes to the rich and collect the taxes. Robin stole. Government doesn't steal. Government gets the tax from the rich. More you earn, more taxes you have to pay. Get the taxes, because the original way income is distributed is not fair. Right? Big gap between the rich and the poor. Government charges some taxes. Government charges some taxes. Can you see? Right. Government charges some taxes from the rich and takes a part of the money rich has. So that gap reduces. And they take this money and they distribute it. Robin gave to the poor. Government can't just go to villages in Sri Lanka and just throw money at them. Government has something called a welfare system, social protection system. In Sri Lanka, we have Samurdhi and these kinds of things. Are we clear with that? Right. So government will create welfare and reduce the gap between the rich and the poor. Redistribution. Original distribution is unfair. So they redistribute. That's called the redistribution function. And the fourth and the final function is, again, Superman now, regulatory function, right? Stands for justice, and government makes sure that consumers are not exploited, environment is not exploited, the competition is there. That's called regulatory function. Regulatory function regulates the economy, makes it fair for everyone. In the sense where everyone can participate, everyone's rights are protected, especially private property rights. So are we okay with the 4 functions of the government in a market economic system? Allocative, stabilization, redistribution, and regulatory. And the regulatory comes a very important thing, very first thing, defining, establishing, protecting private property rights. Any questions? In addition to this, Puta, we can talk about further functions, like infrastructure development, human resource development, promoting economic growth, sustainable development, promoting market opportunities, competition, all that. But even those, Puta, within the 4, it's there. So remember the core 4, then you're safe, then you're okay. Done? No? Yes, we are clear? Functions of the government. Right. Now I think we have covered all the basic things about a market economic system. Right? So we have completed the basic understanding of a market economic system. Next week we look at the command economic system, and then we do the comparison between market and command economic system. That's why we look at the advantages and the disadvantages. So you guys have some work to do now, right? From the previous sessions, the short notes to prepare. From today's session, the short notes to prepare. I'm sure you will be dedicated and you will get all this done, Puta, because the more you do this, better for you, and you will remember. So with that, we conclude today's session. If you guys have any questions, you can ask. Most probably the power will go off in my area of residence in a bit. So let me stop the recorded version.